Thank you. We're going to begin our session. Thank you all for being here. My name is Benita Duran. I'm one of the trustees, and I'm joined with other members of the Board of Trustees and guests here, and then their guests online for this session. So I want to just go around and do those introductions. Again, Benita Duran, and Sylvia Werba is my colleague who has been a part of this process and is a part of the trustees governance committee that's involved in this. I can't remember what we call ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so if the trustees could introduce themselves who are here.
Sure. My name's Andy Saylor. I joined the Board of Trustees last year. So me and one other individual are the two newest trustees. I lived in Boulder for a decent bit of time at this point. Do information security as my day job and help out with the library on the side.
Great, thank you.
And I'm Kara O'Brien. I've been on the Board of Trustees since we were formed, which was a little over 2 years ago. A little under 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
I live in the foothills in Boulder County, and I've been in Boulder on this tour for 7.5 years.
Great.
I'll just say hi again because I didn't get to introduce myself, but I'm Sylvia Werba. Happy to see all of you here.
Thank you. And if our director could introduce himself.
I'm David Farnan. I'm the library director, and I've been privileged to be in this job for 13 years. Super happy.
Thank you. And if the two guests that are here could introduce yourselves, just tell us your name and something about yourself.
My name is Ellen Mitchell. We are renting a house in North Boulder to be near a daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter. We have a home in upstate New York, contemplating a move to Boulder, but I have a lot of experience as a library trustee in our community in upstate, both in our local library and also in the 42 library system that oversees that. So love libraries and already been very interested in visiting the library system here, and including the North Boulder one, but also this one. And now I'm a member of the Diversity Book Club here. And
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
And sir.
I'm Ben Bayer. I live up in the foothills. In my former life, I was a Googler, and now I pay my penance by trying to do a lot of volunteer work and help out. And I'm also an avid library user. I love the makerspace. I volunteer at doing the tech help on the weekends.
Great.
Spend as much time here as I can.
Wonderful. Can I ask Diana to introduce herself?
Hi, I'm Diana Sadigi, and I've been a Boulder resident about 34
can't hear
years.
you.
Oh, how about that?
They can hear her.
Oh, this might be on us. Let's.
Oh no, the recurring problem. Would it
Can
be
you
the
hear me
same
now?
then?
I think you just have to toggle it back and forth. So pick one of the other ones and then toggle it back.
Go back to echo.
How about that? Is that better? Is that better?
It always.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please, Diana.
Diana?
Hold.
Yes, is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear?
I can hear you.
Good. Thanks for the tip on toggling. Sorry. I live in Gun Barrel, very excited for the new Gun Barrel branch to be opening next or later this year, hopefully. I am a retired human resource professional. Most recently, I worked for Employers Council, and I had a background role sort of helping with some of the transition on some of the HR policies from the former library to the library district. I'm a lifelong reader and love libraries ever since I was a kid. And I'm not sure I'm doing penance, but yeah, looking for a way to share my time and my talents.
Wonderful. Thank you. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Bachman. I'm a lawyer. I live in South Boulder. I've lived in Boulder for about 12 years. I'm a big supporter of the library, so just joining to hear about the opportunity to work with the Board of Trustees.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jamie?
Hi, my name is Jamie Donahoe. I have been living in Boulder for about 3 years. I lived here back in the 80s for a while, and we had to return to the United States after 25 years, and we decided we'd give Boulder another shot. So I landed 3 years ago almost and started immediately working or volunteering at the Paper and Spine bookstore. So I'm a long-term Boulder volunteer. I love books, love libraries, and thought I would investigate this trustee position as an option too.
Wonderful, thank you. And David?
Hi, I'm David Boonin. I'm a professor in the philosophy department at CU. I grew up in Boulder. I used to play library when I was in kindergarten, and I haven't stopped being a library fan. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of motivated. I do a lot of volunteer work within the university. I introduced High School Ethics Bowl to Colorado and organized the tournament every year and so forth. But I haven't really done much sort of at the Boulder level. And just have been thinking in recent years, especially since the start of COVID, I guess I would say, like when COVID hit, it really kind of struck me that like the library closure was much harder on me than any other aspect, including like school classes going remote and all that. So yeah, that's my basic motivation for looking into this. So thank you.
Great, thank you. We have a few slides to share with you related to some background that I think may be of interest to you, but we want to also have an opportunity for you to ask questions of us. So if you give me about 7 minutes to get through these slides, and then we could go into any Q&A opportunity that we want to have here. So first slide. And I hope everybody can see that there. Okay. So the position and timeline, we have one open position this year, and it's 1 5-year term. The selection committee is made up of 2 commissioners, and I didn't get a confirmation on the second commissioner yet. And so that's why that's blank, but it's Commissioner Levy is one, and there will be another one there joining. And then Councilwomen Adams and Marquise are the other 2 members of the committee. They are the voting selection committee. We are sort of advisory and have just a role of, in this year, recommending candidates for interview and then providing input related to candidate strengths and needs that we have as a board. So the timeline follows. March 7th is your deadline for application. On March 11th, this board will meet to recommend candidates for interview. During the week of March 24th, the selection committee meets to review the candidates, and they determine their schedule for the interviews. And then just based on schedules, the selection committee will interview candidates by April 14th and select the trustee by the 21st of April. And then both of those elected bodies, the county and the city, will ratify the selection. And May 20th will be the first meeting of the newly appointed trustee, who will be sworn in at that time. Next slide.
So I'm going to cover why trustees are important. And as you may know, we're kind of a baby library district. We're still kind of getting into our practices and developing like the patterns and the traditions that will hopefully, withstand the test of time. But primarily the things that we emphasize are, the trustees adopt the policies and the bylaws, which we'll be working on a little bit later today, and participate in all board meetings. And in addition to the board meetings, we also have subcommittees, and we have liaisons to the Library Foundation. So it's not just, we're hoping that the person who joins won't just be coming to the meeting every month. And we usually have 1 or 2 meetings a month. Right now it's 1. But hopefully there'll be other things that you'll want to get engaged in, whoever is selected. So the trustees also have custody of the library property, because we are now a district. We are not a part of the city any longer. We hire the library director, and we basically evaluate his performance, and we give him the authority and empower him to manage the day-to-day operations of the library. We as a board do not really insert ourselves into the day-to-day activities. That is something we have given the authority to David, and we're very diligent about that. We don't believe that we should overstep our bounds in that regard. We secure adequate funding and practice responsible fiscal management of the public money. And that's something that has been super important to us from the beginning, because we are brand new and we want to show the community that we are spending those dollars that are so important in the way that the community would want us to. We have authority to enter into contracts. We maintain a current map of the library service area. We file an annual report of statistical data with the state library. And, you know, we anything that we're required to do by state law, obviously we comply with that. We plan for the future of the library. And right now is like a super exciting time because we just opened North Boulder. We're going to open Gun Barrel. You know, we're looking at what is our library going to look like 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the line. And we get to think about that now and have that vision now. So hopefully, you know, the person that is selected is going to join into that kind of imagining with us. Monitor and evaluate the overall effectiveness of the library. And that's just a day-to-day thing. Like we're constantly thinking about this and bombarding David or calling David, asking him about this, not overstepping our bounds necessarily, but just checking in with him, obviously. We promote library services and advocate for the library in the community. You know, the library here in Boulder, it's really special. And we want to maintain that. And we want to make it even better as we go. So whoever, you know, is on this body, we everyone has an important role. And as you can see, we have a lot of duties that we consider as we work as trustees.
Thank you. Excellent. Time commitments. So in our early days, when we were in the formation stage, we were meeting on a weekly basis. In this second year, board service, we have, as Sylvia was saying, really disciplined ourselves to one regular meeting a month. Sometimes we do have special meetings as needed, but I estimate that it's probably 3 to 5 hours a month, and certainly depending on interest. But to cover your time at board meetings, thinking about meeting once a month, we meet on the third Tuesday, starting at 6 p.m. Mandatory attendance in person or online. And as I said, occasionally we do have a special meeting that's called for. In terms of additional time commitments, attending library sponsored events of interest. So it's not every event, because if you pick up the daily camera, you see on a daily basis a full camera spread of all of the great programs of all of our different library facilities. But we'd like people to be engaged in those events that strike a chord with you. And we ask that you can be an active patron of the library as you're able. There are committees of the board, and so there could be a committee that you would be serving on or volunteering to serve on. And then there is on an annual basis the Colorado Library Association conference, and some of us have attended that conference, and it's an opportunity to attend and to understand what other districts in this state are doing, and to establish a network and that kind of synergy with others in this arena. Next slide. And if Sylvia, you would take this one.
Sure. What's special about being a trustee on this board, and I apologize, these are the first time I've seen these.
Add to it. That's what makes it special. You could jump into this.
As I kind of mentioned, it's a unique opportunity to help lead and steward the newly formed district, funded by property tax, and contribute to helping our library system thrive and flourish. And we take the second bullet point very seriously, which is to protect the intellectual freedom of the community's prized assets. And thirdly, gain and share board experiences with an active and engaged board, along with the executive team of the library. I mean, we are insisting that you be a library freak, but we kind of all are. It's not a requirement, but it's a special time to be on this board, no matter what. I mean, but it's just great to see the interest right now.
And then our next slide, and when we post this, we'll have these links active, but these are some guiding documents that I think can be a resource. And one is the 10-year library master plan that was established in 2018. And so we are working on the beginnings of a process for that next master planning and strategic planning efforts. The bylaws you'll see linked there. Encourage you to check those out, and our trustee handbook that we put in place in this past year. The budget for this year, to understand some of the priorities and how we've shaped that message. And then I thought what might be helpful is to see a summary of our board retreat that we did hold in August and get a sense of some of the discussion and the priorities that we shared. And that's it in our terms of our presentation. So I'd like to open it up to questions, and I just want to acknowledge Tom Cosgrove, who is a trustee who just joined us here too. So questions in the room or online, if you put up a hand, a virtual hand up there, that would be great if you have questions. And I also want to offer to any trustees, if there was anything else you wanted to add, you're certainly welcome to do that. Nope. You chewing? Okay. Yes, sir.
Is there a fundraising component or a donation requirement, anything like that for being a trustee?
Why don't I have one of the foundation representatives respond to that?
Oh, unless you want it, Sylvia.
Well, as I mentioned, there is a library foundation, which is separate from the trustees. And we have two trustees who serve as representatives. And so that's kind of where the fundraising goes. But in terms of like our budget and what we do, within the library, that is through the property tax that we received. But the foundation, it has a separate fundraising, and it sort of fills gaps and comes up with different unique things that maybe the library isn't able to cover. And in the past, that was a huge role because of the shortage that we had when we were receiving funding from the city. But now there's a bit of transitioning there, but there is definitely a fundraising aspect to that role.
You want to add anything to it?
No, I think that pretty much covered it. We do appoint two of our trustees to the board as well, so there is some overlap there. And when you sit on that board, there is more kind of a fundraising expectation, but it's separate from this board.
Are you also wondering if there's a trustee obligation to give money to the foundation?
There is not.
No. And even when you're on the foundation, the expectation is what a person could afford. It's not you will pay this much to the foundation. It's just whatever is a person can manage.
Yes, Ellen.
The application to apply is online.
Yes.
And due by March 7th.
Yes.
Can be submitted online.
Yes. And yes, if you go to our web link on the library site, you'll see our application there, and you'll soon see this presentation with the links active as well. Diane, Jamie, David, any questions on your side? Jamie?
yes.
No, go ahead.
David.
Diana. Okay, I couldn't see his hand. How about David? Where I don't see him here.
Yeah, I don't, Diana started asking a question.
Okay.
You want to go first and then yeah.
Thank you. I was looking for the raise hand thing.
Me too.
So I've served on a lot of nonprofit boards, but never on a board of trustees or for a district. Is there directors and officers liability insurance, or how do you protect the board of trustees?
Yes,
David.
there is, we take out D&O insurance, so I can't remember what it is. The policy is not expensive. We try to insure, what is it, Benita, $1 million, 2 million?
Yeah.
2 million per trustee, something like that.
Thank you.
And Diana, just related to that, one of the things I've learned as being a trustee is there is this body of law that relates to libraries and Colorado library system. And so there's, I think there's real definition and sort of tracks that we pay attention to. And we have outside counsel who advises us and represents us should there be a need for that. But I've learned that it is, it's not like another nonprofit board. It's like quasi-governmental. And so we, sort of pay attention to that role that we play that's different from a nonprofit charity board or a YWCA or something like that.
The library district is a subdivision of the state of Colorado, so the state office. And so there are laws in place that actually hold government trustees harmless for, I can't remember what it is, up to $400,000 or something like that in any case. So the likelihood of any individual trustee ever being sued for practice that happened here, I assume it would have to be pretty egregious. I don't know. I've never heard of it happening, but you are held harmless as well as being a trustee for a government entity.
Great, thanks. That's a very thorough answer.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, thanks. I guess this is sort of a two-part question. One has to do with what sort of knowledge base you think somebody would want to have going into this position, not knowledge, I mean, like I know the library from the user end and, all the different branches and so forth, but, relevant knowledge and how big the learning curve the trustees think they have in terms of getting up to speed. Like I was the Associate Dean for Arts and Humanities for 5 years, and I knew virtually nothing about the college from that side of things until I got sort of thrown into it. And so I'm sort of wondering about that. But then, yeah, in addition to sort of like the knowledge-based question, like to what extent do you think it's important that a trustee coming in have, I don't know, I guess opinions, about what the library should be doing or what the system should be doing, and to what extent you think that's not necessary, or maybe even like, counterproductive. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks. I'm going to maybe ask one of our two new trustees to just talk about how you transitioned in this year and what that was like in terms of drinking from the fire hose or not. And then I'll reflect and ask for a different response for the opinion side of things. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the short answer to your first question is, I don't think you need a very specific skill set or deep body of knowledge coming in. Now, that said, obviously we want the board to represent the community, and we pull from a bunch of different facets of the community as a result with different skill sets. I mean, we have folks with legal backgrounds on the board, we have folks with tech backgrounds, we have folks with, art and humanities type backgrounds. So I think we do want that well-rounded set of backgrounds. That's obviously helpful to us as a board as we encounter this wide range of things we're dealing with. But I don't think there's like the canonical, these are the 10 things you must know to join a library board. Knowing the library, being a user of the library, knowing the community, understanding kind of some of the challenges the community faces and the way the library can maybe help address some of those challenges. I mean, I think those are the important things, but it's not a very strict skill set. I think coming up to speed's been relatively straightforward. And then Tom, I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I mean, I would add, first of all, Andy and I had the blessing of joining this board after all the really hard, boring work had been done.
Not
I
boring,
see, yeah.
exciting.
Dynamic.
So all of the policy, all of the kind of recreating a government structure that was incorporated in the city, the library had to have all those human relation policies, all, like, you name it, there was a policy that had to be voted on in here for this new entity. And now we're in an exciting time where this is a rare library in the country that's literally expanded in its first 2 years of existence. But I'd say, I never had an idea that wasn't welcome to be tossed around and kicked around in this room or outside of it. But a lot of the role of the trustee is to support David and the staff. We are really blessed by the talent we have in the building. And there are some things that might surprise you, for example. So on the issues of book banning, for example, that's a burden David carries, not us as trustees.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add one other thing, and that is because we have a fiduciary duty, and as I mentioned, the finance piece, we're looking out for the budget, we're looking at how the monies are spent. It's not necessary for a person to have a clear understanding of reading our balance sheet and understanding, the finance side, like specifically, but that person would need to kind of expect to develop that understanding and knowledge so that they could apply that to, when we're looking at the finances. So if looking at finances is not interesting, maybe that's a part that is not as kind of sexy side to being a trustee, but it is a part of what we do.
Thanks.
Yes.
Have you had any issues with the public either interfering with meetings or being particularly unhappy at the trustees? I'm sure you've gotten.
No.
Has it not affected the trustee side of things?
No, a goal we have is to, engage and connect with the community in a more direct way. And I think as people learn about our structure and what we're doing and why it matters, right? But I think a lot of folks are patrons, are customers. And so a lot of those issues come, through David and in the doors of our libraries and our branches. So, David?
Yeah, and we don't get a lot of complaints. Like we get a lot of commendations, which is awesome. Libraries by and large are beloved, right? They are beloved from community to community, but in Boulder, there is a lot of love for the library. There is criticism around, as you can imagine, around the programs that we may do or the books that we may buy and that kind of thing. But that is one, again, where we have a strong policy around the defense of intellectual freedom. We buy books on everything, literally everything. The people right next door here is where the collection development team resides. And they spend all day reviewing and looking at books, and I think they buy books probably with the intention of offending everyone equally. I don't know. So it is not surprising that the public does find, it's not surprising to me that the public at times finds some things objectionable, right? And that's to be understood. But we also, we defend predominantly the basic principles of librarianship are not just to defend the right of free speech, but we resist all forms of censorship, and that is principal kind of component. So, you try to find nice ground with the public around their attitudes towards something specific. And certainly nobody has to read a book, nobody has to go to a program, and we're not doing those for everyone. The board also in their very first year passed a broad equity policy, which is that's kind of an umbrella under which the staff, I think, appreciate greatly. I know I appreciate it, that allows for not advocacy on certain issues, but a broad umbrella for the protection of for lack of a better term, it would be interpreted as civil rights, right? So a civil right issue we're highly protected in that. It doesn't mean, so around books, I always use the example of flat earth, right? So we have shelves full of books on the flat earth. If you believe in a flat earth, you are welcome to use our library and to have meeting rooms booked for you and have discussions about how great it would be to go to the edge and see over the edge and all those wonderful things, tourist destination. But we probably are not going to sponsor a flat earth conference, right? That's not, the library won't sponsor a flat earth conference. In the case of programs and reading materials, we do buy everything. What we are legitimizing in a policy is the process by which we acquired it. And our policy clearly stipulates that we buy all types of points of view. There are books on the shelf that should offend almost everyone, right? And we will defend their right to be there permanently, right? I'm not ever going to not defend the right for objectionable material to be on the shelf. And most people understand that. Most of the public they may feel that a book is inappropriate for their child, then they probably need to have a conversation with their child about why they feel that book is inappropriate. That's not the role of the public library. The role of the public library is really to make all types of viewpoints available to the public. Yeah, we take that very seriously.
Yes.
The one thing I'd add to that, I mean, we do have public comment at all of our meetings. I mean, we don't tend to get a ton of public comment, but the public is always encouraged and welcome to show up. To David's point, like, we're fortunate that we haven't had many of these issues. I do think as a trustee, we should all be prepared to defend the library's mission and thus the ability of staff to do their work as well. We're fortunate, we live in a community where it hasn't been a major point of contention. What will the next N years hold? I don't know, but thus far, not bad.
I know the city council has had some issues. I was just wondering if that's carried over.
Been relatively quiet.
Yeah.
Nice to hear.
You haven't taken on that issue.
I think everybody would agree that we all say all of this with the ender yet.
Yeah.
Like, I think we
Right,
expect it to
right.
come across our desk at some
Sure.
point, but,
Yeah.
and hopefully, I mean, I think we'd welcome it. We'd welcome the conversation, so.
And the state law again has protections built in, so I cannot be criminally prosecuted for a book that we have on the shelf. That's not like, that's 12 out of 50 states have similar laws. 38 states, library staff can be prosecuted in the court of law for the books that they have on the shelf. The law also stipulates that we don't have to review the same book over and over again. You have to be a resident of the district to challenge a book. So there's a lot of different things that the state law have and the library policy has in place that, keeps it as a local issue and that's important, right? That my firm belief about public libraries is we do what our community asks us to do. We're not interested in advocating. I'm not interested in going to, I don't know, some town in the mountains and telling them how they should do their business. That's for their community to decide how to.
Any other questions? Ellen?
As you establish your budget, are the trustees responsible for deciding what the tax levy should be? I'm assuming that you're having a public vote and you're informing the public about what the tax increase is going to be to support the library? Is that how you do it?
Now, the ballot language,
You do set the mill, you do have to certify the mill levy, right? So you can choose to reduce that mill levy. You cannot choose to increase it without. So the vote of the public established a mill levy, it's 3.5 mil. And so that is the maximum that you could levy on the public. And should you choose to reduce it, that is a decision that the board would.
Sorry, I have to go. Thank you for this.
well, I think we may be concluding. If there are any other questions, Stephanie, Jamie, Diane, David, Stephanie? All good?
Thumbs up.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Well,
I had one quick question.
Yeah, I'm all good.
I was
Yes.
just interested in what sort of weight you might be putting on trying to make sure there's a geographic representation on the board, given the boundaries of the district.
It is also loosely discussed in the IGA. And so if they have a kind of guideline of having representative samples. So I think currently we have one member or two members of the board who are two members of the board who are from the unincorporated area.
Oh,
So the balance would be, you can't ever get it perfect.
yeah.
The city of Boulder, it depends on how you want to split the pie, right? The city of Boulder makes up about 73% of the population, and it makes up about 80% of the financial contribution. So how you want to split that pie, I don't really know, but it is the intent of the governing entities to maintain some level of balance. So my assumption is that would mean that they would never have 6 members from unincorporated areas on the board, and they would not have 7 members just from the city of Boulder on the board.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good question.
Yes. Well, seeing no other questions from the group, I just want to conclude by saying thank you. Thank you all for coming and spending time with us to hear about the Board of Trustees, and we hope to see your application by March 7th.
And we have a whole meeting that starts in 20 minutes. Do you
That's
wanna
right.
Stick around.
That's right. And if you were here, you could have pizza with us.
Thank you.
I thank you. Thank you. Tim's online.